I want to hear zero LeBron James slander once the Lakers win the NBA Finals this year. And yes, I know, there have been so many opportunities in the past. Yes, this is not one of them. Once he wins a championship as the best player on his third team, there's literally nothing you can say to me that can take him down from just how amazing of a player he is. But how you guys doing? It is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. Out here in this quarantine, I'm James Sims. And for this episode, of course, I'm gonna get into just like the narratives, and it's just like you know what happens every year, and you know how fans are gonna react to a LeBron James led team competing in the finals. And to be honest, this is probably one of the first times in a while since he was in Miami that he was that he was the favorite in the finals, and that's been a bit, and that's a kind of a different experience for a lot of people. So I mean, but usually every LeBron James season is roughly the same. And I mean, starting out in Cleveland, the narrative was great talent, amazing player, definite MVP, arguable best player in the league, but does he have enough? Does he have what it takes to win a championship? Whereas if you step back and take a look at the big picture, you realize maybe he is playing in Cleveland. Maybe their front office management is terrible. They actually had a player that would probably be arguably be a Hall of Fame player in Carlos Boozer, and they traded him away early on. And the best talent they could give LeBron while he was in Cleveland the first time was way over the hill Shaquille O'Neal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very different. LeBron leaves that situation. He goes to Miami, plays arguably the best basketball anyone has probably ever played, ever. And then, of course, the narrative is, of course, he has Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He has all stars on his team. I mean, like he's the favorite. He lost to Dallas, which is fair. I mean, the Miami Heat lost to Dallas, and the argument is like LeBron James could have done more, but he didn't. Oh well, good players lose good series all the time. I mean, Kawhi Leonard lost. The Clippers lost a 3-1 series lead to the Denver Nuggets this year. But of course, after losing the first one, and then going into the 2012 series against the Boston Celtics, where his legacy was on the line, and of course he dropped 45 points and 15 rebounds in order to kind of cement his legacy, and they would go on to beat the Thunder that year and Durant to win his first championship. But of course, he left his team to win a championship. It's not the same. He's playing with Dwayne Wade. If I was playing with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Ray Allen on the bench, Shane Battier, yeah, of course I'd win a championship too. Then the next year, they were down to the Spurs. LeBron leads the whole team back on the comeback. Ray Allen makes the shot, but Ray Allen saves LeBron James' career. Of course, same story, different wording. It's the same candy, different flavor. You know what I'm saying? Jumping into the next year, of course, is next year they lose. He's branded as not a winner. He goes to Cleveland to show that, of course, it wasn't, or they just so he can bring a championship to his hometown despite their not so very efficient management of their team in the front office. That's the best way I can put it. But of course, going back to Cleveland, he's able to team up with a younger Kyrie Irving who's already been there, and they were able to make draft day trades for Kevin Love. First season, Kevin Love and Kyrie get hurt. LeBron James makes it to the finals against a very good up-and-coming Warriors team that made it all the way through the West. The Warriors barely beat a LeBron James-led team where Matthew Dellavedova and Tristan Thompson were like the second and third best players on that team. But then the Warriors win that series. They win their first NBA Finals, but then of course that NBA Finals gets chalked up as LeBron James not being perfect in the NBA Finals because of course it is a team sport, but I won't get into that one. LeBron goes on to beat that very same team that won from the year before that won. They won 73 wins this time, much stronger team. But, LeBron has Kyrie and Kevin Love, and of course they're not injured this time. They were down 3-1, and LeBron James is the only player that wins this is the only Cavaliers, the only NBA team that has come back from being down 3-1 in order to win an NBA Finals. But then, of course, by the time he wins his third championship, he has what, 4 losses. And then, of course, the argument is he's not perfect. He's not 6 for 6. Well, yes, because it's a team sport, but of course, they're not going to give LeBron James his credit for, of course, helping this Cleveland Cavaliers team. And, of course, Kyrie Irving deserves his credit. Every player on the Cleveland Cavaliers organization deserves credit for that championship that year. But, of course, LeBron James, because he had a losing record in the finals in a team sport, was still not given the respect that he deserves. Of course, the next 2 years, the Warriors add Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant added on to a team that already made the finals, and one would go on to only let the Cavaliers win one game in the next two final series. They swept the second one. And then, of course, the narrative turns to Kevin Durant dominated LeBron, not the Warriors dominated the Cavs. I'm not going to get much more into those. And, of course, Kevin Durant deserves his credit. But to say that he dominated LeBron in the series, I don't know if that's the case. But I'll get into that a completely different day. But after LeBron's stint, LeBron would be, LeBron's 3-6 in the finals. He joins the Lakers. The first year he's in the Lakers, of course, the Los Angeles fans are, not all of them naturally, but of course they're defacing his murals. They're protesting, and not a big protest, but you still had people there in LA Live saying that LeBron isn't doing enough, whatever. First year there, he takes a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in the last 5 years, makes them arguably a playoff team. He gets hurt for about 1 or 2 months. They fall out of the playoff race. They finish 10th. And then the argument is, oh, yeah, look, LeBron's been dominating the East for so long. He's been in the West for 1 year, and he couldn't even make the playoffs. Well, they were in the playoffs. By the time he came back, the Los Angeles Lakers were mostly injured, and it just wasn't a good – everything was not going well for the Lakers. But then that offseason, LeBron James does some stuff that, not normal players and normal organizations can't do in one offseason, where the Lakers traded their farm for Anthony Davis. And of course, people were kind of laying into this pick. They were saying the Lakers were trading a lot of their depth, their young players. How can you trade all these players just for one guy who couldn't even make it out the first round of the playoffs? I think he did once. But how are you going to get in? Why? What are you going to do with this guy? The Los Angeles Clippers have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and that depth on their team. Not to mention with the Lakers, what players the Lakers have. But of course, I digress. You have people saying, of course, Giannis is the new MVP in the East. The Lakers are not the best team in basketball. You have to go through Giannis in the East. And then I say the Miami Heat made it through the Milwaukee Bucks in the East. But of course, and then here's another thing, right? I'll skip the season. LeBron led the entire NBA in assists at age 35, and of course he's garnering more respect than he has in recent years because he's still dominating and playing so incredibly well. But just even looking at how people are going to judge this playoff series afterwards versus how they were talking about it in the moment. Like, for instance, they were saying, oh, wow, the Blazers are the hottest team from the bubble. The Blazers might actually upset the Lakers. LeBron James made quick and easy work of them after the Blazers won the first game. The Lakers won the next 4. But then, of course, it's, oh, yeah, the Blazers were the 8th seed. LeBron and the Lakers were supposed to beat them. Fine, I'll give you that one. The next series, it was, oh, wow, the Houston Rockets have 2 former MVPs. They're playing small ball basketball and playing incredibly great defense. They might give the Lakers some trouble. The Lakers have a lot of big guys. The Rockets are going to run right around them and shoot and make a lot more threes than the Lakers. Well, how did that pan out? Anthony Davis ended up using his size, and so did LeBron. And then, of course, it's going to be, wow, the Rockets were dysfunctional. They had James Harden and Russell Westbrook. They're going to try to bring down James Harden and Russell Westbrook's work over their entire careers because they went up against a much better, much more talented, a much more disciplined basketball team. Not to mention James Harden and Russell Westbrook. That was the first season they'd been together. And they didn't really start working the small ball lineup till right before the season ended abruptly due to COVID. And then, but of course, the Lakers were supposed to beat the Rockets. The Rockets had nobody over 6'6". This was a very easy series, very easy trip for the Lakers to the Western Conference Finals. Oh, but they're not done, right? The team they faced in the Western Conference Finals came back from down 3-1 twice. They came back from down 3-1 against the Jazz that were ranked 6th, and they came back down 3-1 against the Los Angeles Clippers, a team that a lot of people said would house the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers had the Denver Nuggets up 3-1, and people still thought that the Denver Nuggets were gonna come back and win this series. And they were saying, "Oh wow, you can't hold Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic down 3-1. Just ask the Clippers." The Lakers won the very next game, and then of course the narrative shifts to, of course the Lakers are supposed to win. It was the Nuggets. The Nuggets, they did beat the Clippers, led by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Doc Rivers, one of the best coaches in the modern NBA. And of course, they even had the sixth man of the year and another bench player that was averaging double digit points, like 19 points, I believe, in Lou Williams, Lemon Pepper Lou. But then the Lakers were supposed to beat the Denver Nuggets. Coming into the series, of course, people are going to say, wow, the Heat steamrolled the East. They swept the Pacers in their first round. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the only game they lost. Giannis wasn't playing. And then they went on to beat the Celtics, a very amazing team over the past few years, led by Jason Tatum, who's becoming one of the league's best players in his own right. But of course, they go straight through that team. Now they're facing the Lakers. I guess a lot of the narrative now might be, oh, it's an easy win for the Lakers, and it's an easy shot. This is an easy road to the playoffs. Are you kidding me? With everything that you guys have been saying about the Lakers and LeBron for his entire career. And then, of course, there are people going to say the 2020 season was an asterisk season because the season was shortened. Not every player that suited up opted in, but a good chunk of the players that I don't know if every single all-star that was healthy played in the regular season this year, but I would bet that at least 95% of them did. Every team showed up and played the team that was in front of them for the night, and as of right now, only 2 teams remain, so there's really no more excuses. And once LeBron James wins his 4th championship on his 3rd NBA team as the best player, winning the Finals MVP, I do not want to hear any more LeBron slander, because at this point I'll just assume that you're just hating this man for no reason, a man that you don't even know, just because. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. It's getting really old, and considering he's been in the league for 17 years and this hasn't even come close to stopping, is kind of mind-boggling. But once again, it makes sense, because I guess no one hates on the good players. They only hate on the greats. With that said, I appreciate you guys for listening to all 12 and a half minutes of this piece. It is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims. Thank you for hearing my piece, and peace out.